TornadoCash lost a lawsuit recently. They were backed by Coinbase in order to have this to defend themselves in this lawsuit, and the judge found that TornadoCash is an actual entity itself, which has a property interest in its smart contracts. I'm going to read a quote here. The DAO is an entity unto itself that through its voting members has demonstrated an agreement to a common purpose. As the government notes, the structure is not unlike that of stockholders of a corporation who may not intend to vote in a shareholder meeting without this affecting the structure of the entity. And he rejected other arguments from the plaintiffs, including one which said that TornadoCash doesn't have a property right in the actual smart contracts being designated, and another one that said that the sanctions violated the First Amendment. CoinCenter has also filed a lawsuit in this case about TornadoCash about a month after Coinbase backed the suit, and the Coinbase chief legal officer said that the company would be supporting an appeal. I think that for all of us in crypto, the relevancy about this case is about the findings around the DAO. And I've wondered how DAOs would be treated. It's one of those issues we say often that, new technology sometimes needs new rules. And I think that that's kind of what this is highlighting, because how should a DAO be treated? It's very unclear to me how a DAO should be treated. There are people on the crypto side that argue that the DAO it's a decentralized autonomous organization. There isn't an entity. There isn't a person. There isn't, a single thing that should even be able to be sued, I guess they would say. But in order to kind of fit into society, there has to be something.
Exactly.
And how do they comply with things like tax law if there is no entity? How do they file an entity with the government if there is no entity? I don't know. It's one of those things.
I disagree with that particular take. I think the judge was right about this, because I think they're wrong to say it isn't an entity. It's within the name. It's an organization. It's a decentralized autonomous organization. And I would say the core argument has been we need to recognize that it is decentralized and autonomous, but we don't need to ignore that it's an organization. It still has responsibilities as an organization that interacts with other ones and stuff like that, like tax law, et cetera. And I think the missteps in the past have been assuming that there needs to be some human being registered, on paperwork or whatever, because that misunderstands the decentralized autonomous nature of it. It should be represented by its voting members the way that the judge is actually representing it here. And I like that.
I have a question about the word autonomous then. What does it mean in this context to you?
It is autonomous from other items, and it makes its own decisions for itself.
Okay. All right. I can accept that.
So I would say seeing that as a legal entity that should represent itself in court and in other ways through the holding of voting tokens and the votes by those holdings, I think that's exactly the way it should be interpreted. And I think that would be it'd be fantastic if this was more kind of widely recognized and represented in other ways.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that we're getting some sort of clarity around this, I suppose. And I can't say that that Coinbase is supporting the lawsuit, that CoinCenter is also, has put one forward. To me, I would love to hear their arguments. I'm sure that they have really compelling, really great arguments, but I don't totally understand why DAOs shouldn't have to, comply with the same kinds of things that companies do.
I hope that I'm right about this, that's not the grounds that they're trying to argue it on, because the article did mention that some of the grounds they were arguing it on were First Amendment grounds, that it's been recognized in the U.S. for a long time that code is speech. And
money, too, right? The Citizens United case.
Exactly. Yeah. So if it's either code or it's money, it's still recognized as speech, and speech is you can't regulate speech within the United States. A lot of people say you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's actually a misunderstanding. You can. And it was actually, I think it was the Supreme Court that actually adjudicated that and decided that. So that's a misnomer. And so, yeah, there might be some exceptions. You can't threaten someone because that's violence. But we generally have a broadly respected recognition of the right to freedom of speech. And when someone writes code, that is a part of that freedom of speech. How it gets executed, and if the execution of it breaks some particular laws, then the person that's doing that execution is liable for those particular laws.
100%.
The code itself
totally
is
agree.
not. And so
Yeah.
a DAO and the person who wrote the DAO and wrote the code that runs on it should not be liable for those things. And in fact, I'm remembering now that there was some stories where they actually did reverse themselves on some of those elements, and I don't remember the details of them, so I can't really bring them up right now. But I would assume that any good lawsuit about this is going to be based on First Amendment grounds, trying to just argue you can't do these things because it's protected free speech. There might be other things you can do, but you certainly can't sanction code.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see.
That makes sense. Well,
We'll
yeah.
see. Yeah.
Keep an eye on it.